And the new UFC middleweight champion and first UFC champion from South Africa, Dricus still knocks du Plessis. Admittedly, a very close fight that have a lot of fans disagreeing with one another. Still, nothing but respect for both of these warriors. I usually don't do breakdowns on MMA fights and was not going to make a video on this, but here we are now. So better late than never. As always, no actual fight footage because of copyright, and feel free to comment anything I have missed out on. With that being said, let's get to the fight. Now this fight basically came down to Sean's jab versus Dricus' forward pressure, and that jab was doing wonders for him in the very first round. And he constantly just peppered Dricus with this again and again, to the point his eyes started to swell up. Sean is also one of, if not the only guy I see who utilizes the Philly shell in MMA, and he used it to great effect, especially when backing up, and he was also able to constantly check the kicks of Dricus. One would think that a guy like Sean would be a forward slugger, but he is actually one of the most defensive guys in the game, and he was blocking a lot of Dricus' attacks early on. But Dricus is just a relentless machine. What was apparent was as the fight was going on, Dricus' blitzing style of attack was getting closer and closer to Sean. What also separated Dricus from Sean's last opponent, Izzy, was the fact he had a more varied approach, which was the takedowns, something Sean did not have to worry about in his last fight. But against Dricus, he was caught by it. As good as Sean's boxing is, Dricus still encompasses more of the mixed aspect of the sport of MMA. When Dricus couldn't beat Sean in the boxing department, he would mix things up. He would start ending his combos with kicks, mix up his punches with high kicks, go for takedowns, feint a takedown and then strike, switch stances in the middle of his punches, whereas Sean is primarily heavy on the jab, backs up and uses it to create openings and stuffs takedowns. Dricus just had a lot more weapons at his disposal, and because of that, he was the one setting up the pace and pushing Sean back most of the fight. Dricus did not allow Sean to set the pace like what he did with Izzy. This might sound ironic, but grappling will open up the striking as well. When Sean needs to worry about more things, then he can focus less on one. And this mix-up of attacks were starting to create openings on Sean, especially the overhand. The strangest thing about Dricus, however, is that he is somehow at his best when he starts fighting messy and the fight becomes a drunken brawl. And this was apparent in round 4, his best round of the fight. Just throwing wild shots and blitzing forward, and it worked for him. However, despite all of this, Sean was still landing cleaner punches and still blocking a lot of Dricus' attacks. His jab straights were pretty clean, and I think if he added more teeps in there, then the fight would have gone even closer to Sean's favor. But then again, Dricus got takedowns. However, no real follow-up damage, so I'm not really sure how they would score that in MMA. However, I do think Dricus did land the heavier blows as well, while Sean landed more volume. And if this fight also answers one thing, it's that Dricus does have the cardio to go 5 rounds. Now, there's a bit of controversy going on about who actually won the fight. Honestly, if the fight is this close, then I think the next best course of action should be a rematch, or the decision itself should have been a draw and then a rematch. That's how I see these types of fights. If it's at a point it could have gone either way, then it probably should have just been a draw. But if I really had to pick one, then I personally thought Dricus is the winner. However, it was close. Regardless, both guys gave out the best in each other, and I wouldn't mind seeing them run it back.